What's up, YouTube? New day, new 2-5 session down here at Coconut Creek. Maybe 5-10. If there's a 5-10 game running, we'll hop into that. Sometimes there's just random public 5-10 games. So we'll see. 2-5 or 5-10, whatever it is. Hope you guys enjoy. As always, I appreciate you for liking, thumbs up, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. Helps the channel a lot. And enough rambling as always. Let's get in there, win some pots, and hopefully win our flips. Let's go.
We sit down with $2,500. There's 3 calls, and I look down at 2 8s. I decided to make it $100. Pretty standard, and out of the 3 limpers, so we see 2 of them call. So we're going to be going 3 ways to a flop in position. The flop comes out King, King, 10 with 2 clubs. They check it to me, and I think I probably should be betting on this board, but this time I do decide to check. The turn now is an ace, and they check it to me once again. I don't think they are pretty strong here. I think I likely have the best hand. I could probably bet just for some protection, but once again, I just decide to check it. The river now is not good. It comes another ace. So our hand gets counterfeit, and now we are just playing the board. And now checks to the player in middle position who I played before, and now he bets $50. This is not the kind of player to be sizing down with a full house. I think if he has a big hand, he's just going to be betting pretty big. So with that being said, I think I want to be turning my pair of 8s into a bluff. I think it's pretty likely he has a 10 here, so I decided to make it $300. And he literally doesn't think for 5 seconds and calls. Well, that sucks. I table the 8s, and he has queen high with queen 4 of diamonds. Okay, well, I was not expecting that call, but hey, I got to give him all the respect in the world for that one. Nice hand. We add on for 1,000. In this next hand, we're in middle position with ace 10 offsuit. I make it $35. We see the button call and both the blinds decide to call. So we're going 4 ways to a flop. The flop comes out queen 10 2. The queen and 10 are both spades, so we have a backdoor royal draw. Checks to me, and with 4 people in the spot, we have enough showdown to comfortably check this, and it checks all the way around. The turn now is a 4 of hearts, so putting a backdoor flush draw out there, it checks to me once again, and now I'm pretty sure I have the best hand. Wouldn't imagine any of these players checking a queen on the flop, and definitely not on the turn. So I decided to bet half pot. I bet $75, and we only see a call from the button. I play with him, and he does not get out of line that often. So I'm going to be treading with some caution here on the river. I think it's very likely he could have a flush draw. So in the river comes a 5 of hearts. Definitely not the card I'm looking for. I don't think there's much point in betting on this card. I think we're only going to be getting called by better. So I decide to check it, and now he bets $375. So obviously not the best spot in the world. Once again, I don't think he ever has a queen or a 2 pair here. Not many runouts would have made a 2 pair. Like, I don't think he ever has queen 5. Also, having the ace of spades is a bit interesting here. Makes it less likely he has the nut flush draw, reducing some of his bluffs. So the only bluff that I can really think of is like jack 9. With that being said, I think he's probably likely to bet that on a flop once it checks to him anyways. Not having a heart in my hand makes my decision a little bit easier. So for that sizing and against this player, I just decide to fold. I'll never know what he has, but I'm still pretty confident this is the right decision. In this one, we see the player we got involved with last hand open up in middle position to 35. The button calls, and we're in the big blind with 2 aces. Obviously a really good spot. Definitely not going to be calling. Definitely going to be putting in another raise. I decided to make it $150. Praying that we see some action. The middle position player does decide to call the 150, and now the button looks like he is in a tough decision, but not a decision of whether or not to call or fold. It looks like he wants to just get his stack in. He only has around $550. After about a minute of thinking, that is exactly what he does. He decides to ship his stack in for around, once again, $550. Obviously, we are going absolutely nowhere. I think the best course of action here is just the call. Sure, you have the risk of going multi-way to a flop if the middle position player calls, which then he could crack our aces because obviously more people to a flop, more likely to be cracked. But we're not here to play scared. I think this also could induce an isolation all in from the middle position player because normally we would not just be flatting aces here. With that logic, I think I am going to be putting it in the flat call. So I just throw in $550, and unfortunately the middle position player snap folds. I just go ahead and table my hand immediately. Obviously we're good. And we're off to see a run out, but right before the flop comes out, he asks if we can go twice. As usual, if someone asks, I really don't care. So we're going to be seeing 2 boards. I completely forget to pick up my camera and film the runouts, and I didn't even take notes on them. But long story short, the first run out we hold. The second run out comes 3 spades, and he tables ace queen of spades. It was interesting because when he tabled his hand, he didn't realize he hit a flush. He made a comment basically saying like, "Oh, nice hand, like I ran into it," or something like that. He didn't realize he had a flush. So as he was walking away, I notified him that he is, in fact, going to be splitting the pot with me, which I just felt like was the right thing to do, considering he tabled his hand too. So we are going to be chopping this one up. Just unfortunate that, obviously, we don't scoop. This one, we get out of line a little bit. I'm not going to lie. There's 2 calls. I am on the button. I go ahead and look down at King 9 offsuit. Yes, kind of ambitious, I know. I make it 60, and both the limpers decide to call. We're off to see a flop, which brings no immediate help. Comes ace 9 deuce, all diamonds. Checks to me, and an ace out there looks pretty good. Even though it's our exact hand, this is just so bad. We literally have nothing going for us. I put in a small C bet, and luckily they both fold. The power of position does come into play on this one. In this next one, there's a button straddle. We're in the small blind. We make it 75 with ace 4 of clubs. Maybe a little bit ambitious, opening up effectively under the gun. Also, we have around only 100 big blinds, but the table has been pretty passive besides this one player that we're getting involved with, who happens to make it 200 this hand. Folds to the button, he releases, and with ace 4 of clubs, obviously not the most ideal spot, but the raise is super, super small, and we each have around $2,500 to be played with, so I think it's pretty reasonable to make the call here. I toss in the chips, and we're off to see a flop. I regret not putting in another raise before the flop because it comes out king, queen, 6, all clubs. We go ahead and flop the nuts. I'm happy to see him put in a continuation bet of $200. I think against this specific player, I actually should be fast playing my hand, especially with ace 4, this exact combo, because we unblock all the other big clubs, like the jack and the 10. But nonetheless, I just call to keep his bluffs in, and the turn's a total brick, goes check, check. The river now is another brick. Don't want the river now to go check, check. With around $800 on the pot, I decide to bet 75% of the pot. I throw out $600, and after thinking for a little bit, he decides to call. That's good. We table our hand, and obviously we are going to be winning this one. In this next one, there's a under the gun straddle. We're in middle position with 2 black queens. We make it 75, and we see a call from the big blind, and we also see a call from the under the gun straddler. So we're going to be going 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes out 10-8-5, and now the action player leads out for 200. Bit of a tough spot. I think I could be raising here, just assuming that a 10 is not folding. But for this sizing, I decide to just call. It's pretty big, and now we see the other player call as well. The turn isn't the best, though. It comes a 6 of clubs. 7-9 got there along with a bunch of 2 pairs, so it's just generally a better card for him. Does check over to the action player. He now goes all in for $500. Even though, obviously, once again, it is not the best card in the world, against this player, queens are just still way, way, way too good to be folding. So I call 500, praying that the player behind doesn't get out of line, and luckily he folds. So we're going to be going heads up to a river, which looks pretty good. It comes a 5 of clubs, so the backdoor flush comes in, but now we have a really good 2 pair. He says that he has a 10, but he says he might have a flush as well. He doesn't even know. But luckily, when he looks at his cards, he does not have a flush. He just has 10 deuce offsuit. So the 10 of spades and the 2 of clubs. So my heart was beating when he said that, but obviously happy that we are going to be winning this one. This next one, the action player makes it 75. There's no straddle, no nothing. I'm on the button with king 9 of diamonds. I said I would give him action. He only has around 125 behind. So in theory, this isn't good, but against this player, I'm happy to splash around with him. He goes all in blind. The flop comes out king high. And obviously, I'm going to be calling king, queen, rag. He says he has ace, queen. The turn immediately is a queen, and the river is an ace. So he actually hits a full house. And obviously, a full house is going to be beating just my king. So I fold my cards, and kind of lucky that he didn't have more behind, because I probably would have lost a little bit more. Nice hand. In this next one, there's a under the gun straddle, and I'm first to act with queen, jack of clubs. Definitely good enough for a raise. I make it 75. We see the button call, and now we see the action player call and the small blind. So we're going to be going 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes out queen, 6-8 rainbow. We go ahead and flop top pair with a decent kicker. Checks to me, and I bet small, I bet 75, and we see a call by the player on the button. The turn now is a jack of hearts, so we go ahead and hit 2 pair. 9-10 did come in, but hey, we have top 2 pair. Definitely going to be putting in a bet. I bet $225, and I'm happy to see him call pretty quickly. At this point, I'm just hoping that he might have a bigger queen, such as king queen, maybe even ace queen. The river now is an offsuit 10. So not the best card in the world. We are now losing to any 9, which is a straight. Bit of a tough spot being first to act. I debate whether to check it over to him to try to bluff catch or to bet myself and probably fold to a raise. I think I like a bet a little bit more. We can still target worse 2 pairs. Maybe he has like queen 10, maybe he has like jack 10, those kind of hands that I think will still call a smaller bet. Also, I think we'll make our decision a little bit easier opposed to check calling, especially if he bets big, we'll kind of be in no man's land. So I decided to bet $350. Obviously, if we get raised, it'll be a 6 spot. Luckily for us, we're not put in that spot as he just folds. In this one, there's a button straddle. The small blind calls to 25, and now we are under the gun with ace 8 of clubs. I make it 125, folds around to the button, and now he goes all in for $450. The small blind folds, and obviously not a fun spot. Even though this is the action player, he could still be doing this with hands that absolutely crushes us, like ace king, ace queen. I mean, he still could have a made hand too, like jacks, queens, those kind of hands. The tricky part is he could be doing this with hands that we also crush, like ace 2 suited, ace 3 suited, those kind of hands. Also smaller pairs like 6s, 7s, 8s could just be ripping it in. So really, really close spot. I honestly wish I saw his stack before I made it $125. Probably would have altered my decision. Eventually, I just come to the conclusion I think I can just find a better spot, even though it sucks and it's really not that much more. But hey, sometimes you make mistakes. In this one, we see an early position call, and now gets to me, and I look down at queen 10 offsuit. Definitely a bit wide, but hey, this table has been pretty passive. I haven't gotten 3-bet literally all day. So I decide to make it 50. We see a cold call by the player on my left, and now 2 to my left, he decides to bump it up to like 200 or 225, something like that. Folds to the button, who now puts in another raise, folds to me, and this has literally been the first 4-bet at this table. With queen 10 off, this is obviously just a really easy decision. We fold. This last hand is just dumb. It's against my friend Justin. We're playing 4-handed. He makes it 30. I'm on the button with 2 8s, and this literally is the last hand of the night. I obviously should be racing this 4-handed like always, but I just decided to call the 30, and we're heads up to a flop. Once again, this hand is just silly. It's not much skill involved whatsoever. We're just messing around the last hand of the night. The flop comes queen 10-6 with 2 clubs. He puts in a small c-bet, and against him, I'm just messing around. I min-click him to 50, just basically targeting any random gut shots, maybe even like a small pair. He calls. The turn's another 6, which actually looks like a pretty good card. He checks it. I decide to check it back. The river now is a 9, so it's an overcard. He bets $50, and once again, this is just a dumb hand. I call 50, and he has queen jack of spades. So honestly, if I was playing this hand legit, the pot probably would have been a lot bigger being 4-handed. I'd imagine I would re-raise. He'd put in another raise. I'd probably call, and I'd probably peel at least 1 street. So by playing this hand like an idiot, we actually, I think, saved money. Anyways, that was the last hand of the night. I know it was pretty silly, but hey, sometimes you have to have fun, especially when the night's winding down.
What's up, YouTube? So I'm extremely exhausted. I've been playing poker for quite some time. I was at a friend's house playing prior to the creek that I didn't vlog. And we actually, this session that you just saw was only like an hour and a half. We were in the game for 3,500. We were out for 4,744 or like 50, whatever. So we won, I believe, $1,250 in like an hour and a half, which for that game, it wasn't a crazy amount. Yeah, not too much more to be said. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, I appreciate you guys for liking, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.